This is The Unhurried Mama, a space for mothers who are tired of holding it together and ready to actually land. I'm Michelle, and I'm a mom, a writer, but not an expert. I'm here as someone still figuring this out, doing it my way, and refusing to pretend it's perfect. Every week, we sit together and untangle one piece of the parenting knot. No tips or fixes, I promise. Just the mess, the science, and the path back to you. So pour yourself some coffee or tea, close the door, and let's begin right where we are. Episodes 1 and 2 were about the breaking, the times I realized I couldn't keep running, and what it cost me to step off the treadmill. Last week, I told you about that window where you can still think, still breathe, still stay present, and what happens when the stress pushes you out of it. The spill, the snap, the bathroom floor. This week, I'm showing you what happened after the knock, and what it actually looks like to choose a different pace, even when it feels terrifying, even when it means letting go of the story I thought made me a good mother. I was still behind the bathroom door, hand on the knob, when I heard a knock. "Mama, I cleaned up the mess." His voice was so small, so timid. I opened the door, and he was standing there, looking up at me with those uncertain eyes, the same ones that had asked, "Can we play now?" 100 times before. I hugged him, so close. And I cried, hard. Not the quiet, dignified kind of crying. The ugly, snotty, can't catch your breath kind. Because he was the one asking if I was okay, when he was the one who cleaned it up, after I'd been the one who lost it. "I'm so sorry," I said. "I shouldn't have yelled at you. You didn't do anything wrong. I was frustrated and my body took over. I'm working so hard to be better, and sometimes I still lose it. But that's not your fault. That's mine." When I said that last line, I felt his whole body relax. He let go of the breath he'd been holding. His shoulders dropped. He leaned in and hugged me tighter. This full body sigh of relief. And then he said, so quietly I almost missed it, "I thought you were mad at me." And my heart just cracked. Because he was carrying it. He thought my dysregulation was about him. And the repair, it was the moment he got to put it down. This is the work. Kneeling down after you lose it and saying, "I'm sorry, that wasn't yours to carry." Letting them see that we're human, that we make mistakes, that I feel shame, so I repair. That morning, I showed him love doesn't mean being perfect. It means being human. That wasn't the only time I had to catch myself mid-spiral. There was another moment, one that took longer to see and cost me more to end. I had signed them up for piano because I felt the pressure. Not from them, but from me. My parents' friends would ask, "Do your kids play an instrument?" And I'd feel this weight in my chest when I had to say, "No, they don't." Like I was the one dropping the ball. And maybe, if I'm really honest, I wanted proof. Proof that homeschooling was working. That my kids were learning discipline and all the things people assume they're missing when you don't send them to school. I thought piano lessons would be that proof. We were in the living room, where the piano lives. My son was practicing a song, one he'd been working on for a couple of weeks. And I could feel it building in me. My breath getting shallow, the buzzing under my skin, my jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth would crack. I worked to push it down. I forced myself to breathe, willed myself out of fight or flight with sheer discipline. but my tone was already sharp, frustrated, unkind. The kind of voice I thought I'd left in the past. And then, mid-note, I wasn't in the living room anymore. I was 12 years old, sitting at the kitchen table with my dad. He was explaining equations to me, and I wasn't getting it. His voice was firm, stern, riddled with frustration, but doing his best to mask it with the last bit of patience he had left. "What you do to one side, you have to do to the other," he said. "It's so simple. Why can't you see it?" I felt small, defeated, like I was so stupid. That something so simple, something everyone else seemed to understand, I just couldn't grasp. I was shaking, ever so slightly, from the fear, the stress, and the feeling of doom closing in. Those emotions were rising up my torso, past my chest, and into my eyes, tears gathering at the corners. I had my hands tucked under my thighs, trying not to show I was crumbling. Even then, I was already living the opposite of unhurried, already faking that everything was fine. Then I looked at my son, and I saw my face in his, my voice in his wincing, my hand stabbing the piano book with a straight finger, banging on the keys to demonstrate the notes. The fury came out so fast, I just couldn't control it. The roles had reversed. I was my dad, and my son was me. The edge in my voice, the words, the aggressiveness of my demeanor, it was me acting the way my dad did. The way my son's head hung low, the way he was fighting to hold his body still and together. It was me in the chair, me stuck on math with my dad. And then he broke, hunched over, chin tucked, shoulders caving in. A silent, defeated kind of cry that says, "I give up." And I halted mid-huff and immediately softened. I threw both hands up to the sides of my head and said, "I can't anymore." I walked into the kitchen, tears welling in my own eyes before they slipped down my cheeks. I braced myself against the counter, staring down at the floor, asking myself, if none of us are enjoying this, if it's all struggle and pain and defeat, is it really worth it? I didn't have an answer that night, but over the next few days, the question kept coming up in my mind throughout the day. And slowly, I started to see what I was really holding onto. I had to let go of the story that quitting meant failure. That if I let them walk away, they'd never learn discipline. That good moms don't let their kids quit. That my family would judge me. That I had wasted money and time and had nothing to show for it. So I let them quit. I told them one night, about a week later. We sat down at the table and I said, "No more piano. We're done with lessons." They looked at me like they weren't sure if I was serious. And then my daughter asked, "Really?" "Really," I said. And my son said, "Yay, no more piano practice and you yelling at me." That line landed on my heart like a boulder. A ping of shame hit me hard, even though it was the truth. I had to remind myself that I wasn't giving up on them. I was refusing to keep choosing their resume over their nervous system. And what I didn't expect was the relief in my body and in theirs. We noticed we felt more peace, more at ease, and a lightness in our days that wasn't there before. Previously, it was this have to-do list thing. Check it off, move to the next, rinse and repeat. So much pressure, hurriedness, rushing. Go, go, go. Become something worthy of recognition through doing, instead of just being worthy inherently. But no more midday fights at the piano. The tension lifted. It took a while before we started playing music for fun again. But the beauty was in no more pressure, no more recitals, just music as art and creativity. This is what unhurried looks like. So what does unhurried actually mean? Because for a long time, I thought it meant lazy. I thought slowing down was the same as giving up. That if I wasn't pushing, I wasn't parenting. It's none of that. It's something else entirely. For me, unhurried means intentional slowness. I move at the pace my nervous system can handle, and not at the speed our culture demands. Not the tempo that gets applause. And trust me, this one took years of healing, and I'm not done yet. It means I trust my rhythm over someone else's timeline. I quit rushing through mornings, through dinner time, through the million tiny moments that used to spike my cortisol. And I let my kids see what honoring your body and truth actually looks like. Because your nervous system knows. It always knows. But how it speaks depends on how you're wired. And the work is learning to trust it. My system speaks in an instant, an uncomfortable feeling in my gut, a sudden no, I can't explain, a lightness that says yes before my brain catches up. And for years, I ignored it. I told myself I was being irrational, impulsive, too quick to decide. I thought I needed more time, more data, more proof. But what I needed to do was not override the signal. A friend had asked me to attend a social event, and the second she asked, my chest tightened. Everything inside me said no. But I told myself it was only a couple of hours, that it wouldn't be that bad, and it would be good for me to get out and be social. So I said yes. And it cost me. Too many commitments that week, and by the end, I felt so depleted that I spent half the day in bed, which meant my kids got the leftover version of me, the one running on fumes. Again. The thing is, spending half the day in bed was actually me honoring my body, slowing down, allowing myself to rest in a way I would have never let myself do before then. But the real lesson wasn't rest after you burn out. It was, don't override the no in the first place. Don't even get to that place of burnout. My instinct was bang on, and it took me a long time to learn to trust that. I'm still learning it now. What do those signals look like for you? The lump in your throat when you look at the calendar? The shallow breath when someone asks you to add one more thing to your list? The heaviness when you think about another activity, another commitment, another thing to prove you're doing it right? That's your inner knowing telling you the truth. And most of the time, we override it. We tell ourselves, it's fine, I can handle it. Other moms do this. I should be able to do it too. And if you scroll social media for 30 seconds, you'll see the proof. But should isn't the same as can, and can isn't the same as want to. And if none of these resonate, that's okay. The point isn't to label how your body knows. The point is to start listening. Also, I don't do this perfectly. There are weeks when I slip back into rushing, when I overcommit, when I clench my jaw all day without even realizing it because I forgot to check in with myself. Remember, it's not a destination, but a practice. It's a return. So what does unhurried actually look like in practice? For me, it started with mornings. I used to treat every single departure like an emergency. Shoes on, bags packed, out the door, now! Even when we had nowhere urgent to be. My kids' nervous systems were paying for a pace that most of the time nobody was actually requiring of us. So I started asking, does this actually need to be rushed? Sometimes the answer is yes. There are appointments, there are commitments, and things that genuinely need us to be on time. But a surprising amount of the time, the answer was no. The urgency was coming from inside me, not from the clock. Which meant I had to stop scheduling us into back-to-back commitments. I had to build space into our mornings, not because I got better at planning, but because I stopped agreeing to a pace that required us to rush. And for years, my phone was the first thing I reached for in the morning. I told myself I needed to check it, that if I didn't, I'd miss something important, fall behind, or let someone down. My phone felt like the thing that kept my life together, but it was far from the truth. It kept me chained to the pace I desperately needed to escape. So I stopped. At first, it felt hard. Without the phone, I couldn't pretend I was on top of everything. I had to just sit with the day ahead of me, unmanaged, unscheduled, wide open, and that felt terrifying. But once I stopped reaching for it, my days felt smoother, more flowing, like we could float through the day instead of dragging our feet. Now I meditate first or go for a walk. And we don't have perfect days all the time, but there's definitely a difference. So the question I want to leave you with, and it's a big one, so let it be big. What would it feel like to move at your own pace? I don't mean forever and probably not in every area of your life. What about just one moment, or maybe just for today? Maybe it's letting your kid take an extra 10 minutes to put on their shoes, and instead of standing at the door with your keys in your hand and your jaw clenched, you sit down on the floor next to them. Maybe it's saying no to one thing this week that your body has been telling you to say no to for months. Maybe it's sitting down for 5 minutes before you start dinner and just breathing. Not productive breathing, not I'm doing my mindfulness practice breathing. Just breathing because you're a person and you need air. And if you've been waiting for permission, if some part of you believes you have to earn the right to slow down, I want you to hear this. You're allowed, right now, without finishing the list, without proving you've done enough, without making sure everyone else is taken care of first. You're allowed to trust your body over the calendar, to rest without earning it, to move at a pace that lets you actually feel your life while you're living it. That's what unhurried means. It's not some mood you wake up with, and it's not a luxury you can't afford. It's a decision you make to stop performing at a pace that was never yours to begin with. This is the pace we're moving at here, slowly, tenderly, and on purpose. What I'm building is a space where mothers stop pretending and start landing, where we trust our bodies, repair with our kids, and raise humans who know what it feels like to be safe in their own skin. And you're a part of it right now, just by listening. The book I'm writing is part of it too. And if you want to go deeper, if this work is resonating with you and you want the full meal deal, my book is coming later this year. You can join the early reader list at theunhurriedmama.com. So if you like what you're hearing, subscribe wherever you listen. Share this with a mom who needs it. Next week, we're diving into more nervous system science. And until next time, practice one breath of unhurried, just for a moment if you can, and lean in to what comes up for you.